and welcome to Steam Machine Brewing Company. I'm Nick Smith, I'm the co-founder here, and I'm also the Chief Beer Educator at the Fellowship of Beer. Now you may be wondering, what is that beautiful looking straw-coloured beverage in your hand, sir? Well, this is our Czech style Pilsner Hanna of 4.5%. And the reason I'm drinking this today is that it is National Lager Day. How brilliant that you can have a day for everything, especially lager. Cheers, everyone. Now, in the beer world, especially those of traditional beer lovers of the UK, lagers get a bad rep. Understandably so, because for a long time, the beer that's been available in the UK has been very bad lager. Macro produced by cheap industrial processes, and most of it barely lagered. The majority of people who really love their beer love finding a really good lager. And that's because they're some of the most delicate, some of the most beautiful beers that exist in the world. The history of lagers is an absolutely fascinating one. The processes behind lagers, the ingredients, they're fascinating as well. And it's something that we cover in our first course of All About Beer. Now, this video is not a plug for All About Beer, but if you want to learn more, I suggest you do go have a look at that course, links below, and you can find out more there. This video is about why I love lagers so much. Because lagers are extremely diverse. You can have dark lagers, you can have pale lagers, you can have sparkling lagers, you can have hoppy lagers. Whether it's an ingredient or whether it's a process or a combination of the two is a debate that we address in more detail. The lager I have in my hand, as I said, is called Hanna. The reason it's called Hanna is because it's made with beautiful malt that almost went extinct if it wasn't for our malts crisp who brought it back from the dead. It's all the first pale lagers of the world. Those first Pilsners were made of this type of malt. So this is as close as we can get to tasting an original Czech style Pilsner from the 1800s without the time machine. Now, pale lagers are the Johnny-come-lately beers in the lager scene. Originally, lagers would have been dark, and that's how they were brewed for a long time. Lager is German to store, these beers that were left to condition and mature for long periods of time. And I have here a Czech lager. This is a dark Czech style lager. It's called Katarina, and this is the type of beer that would have been drunk around the Czech and similar beers in the German areas of the lager origins of the world back in the day before this beverage grew to the fore. I'm having this one tonight. This one is for educational purposes only. Now, lager has a bit of an unusual history in the British Isles. It was never the most popular beverage. You know, that was the reserve of pale ales, of porters, of mild beers. And the first lager was actually brewed in Scotland in the 1800s. It was a collaboration between Scotland and an international brewery. It never took off, and so it wasn't brewed again. Post World War II, we had a big influx of Dutch beers coming into Britain, and these were taxed cheaper than some of our domestic beers. So that led to a bit of a fluctuation, a bit of a rise of lagers, but it wasn't really until the 60s it took off. Initially, these beers were they were mocked. People who drank them were called homosexuals or women, as if that's an insult, being called a homosexual or a woman, but there we go. But when the 60s and 70s came about, these beers represented clean, they represented crisp, and they represented a very different flavour than some of the brewing practices of the British Isles, which dipped quite often in quality since World War II. These days, if you really want to try a good lager, you don't have to go much further than an independent craft beer tap room. Even in supermarkets, you can find independent, good quality Pilsners. As long as you stay away from the macro beers, you're laughing. So, National Lager Day, thank you very much. I hope you get to try one today. If you do want to learn more about lagers, follow Fellowship of Beer, have a look at All About Beer, and tell a friend. Thank you very much. Cheers for listening.